For our math warm-up today, I would like you to find a fraction of for each one of these problems. So go ahead and take out a sheet of paper or your dry erase board, number from 1 to 4, pause your video, complete the 4 problems, and then come back to check to see how you did. All right, so let's take a look at number 1. We have 1/2 of 12. So hopefully that was an easy one for you. Your answer should have been 6. Number 2, 1/2 of 15. 1/2 of 15. That one does not divide evenly, does it now? So if we do 1/2 of 15, we're going to have a little bit left over. So our answer, if you figured that out in detail, would be 7 1/2. Number 3, we have 2/3 of 12. 2/3 of 12 would be 8. And number 4, we had 2/5 of 12. So I gave you another tricky one, didn't I? Let's see if you figured it out. Correct answer should have been 4 4/5. So you might be asking yourself, well, how did you get that, right? You could draw a picture, right? Use that, divide it up, figure out what 2/5 would be. So what might that look like? Instead of doing a picture, I decided to go another route and think back to our lesson with fraction of and how we were able to take those problems and turn them into basically a multiplication problem. So if we turn 2/5 around 2/5 of 12 and said 12 times 2/5, then we would put our 12 over 1 times 2/5, multiply the 12 times the 2, we get 24. Multiply 1 times 5, we get 5. Then we have a division problem here, 24 divided by 5. So then I work this out over here, and I come up with a final answer of 4 4/5. So to me, that's just an easier way to go about that if you're unsure. Our math message today is for you to solve the following problems. So number 1, you're going to find 1/2 of 3. And number 2, you're going to find 1/2 of 3/4. So if you would, pause your video, go ahead and complete those 2 problems. Once you're done, come back and let's check and see how you did. So if we use our same strategy that we used on our warm-up today, we can take the 1/2 of 3 and turn it into a multiplication problem where it would be 3 times 1/2. And then, of course, that means that we would take that 3, place it over 1 times 1/2. We multiply our numerators, 3 times 1, we get 3. Multiply our denominators, 1 times 2, we get 2. So our answer would be 3/2, or we can turn that into a mixed number of 1 1/2. So that's how you could do that first one. If we take a look at the second problem, we have 1/2 of 3/4. So once again, we could use the same strategy, turn that into, oh wait, notice this is a fraction of a fraction. I wonder how we're going to go about that. 1/2 of 3/4. How might we do that? One thing that you could do is use your fraction circles and make some trades. So let's take a look to see what that would look like. Okay, so let's take a look at what we've got here. First of all, I took fraction pieces and I made 3/4 right here. And we're trying to figure out what 1/2 of 3/4 is. So in order to do that, because we can't divide that up evenly, we're going to make some trades. So it takes 2 1/8 pieces, 1, 2, to make 1 1/4 piece. So basically I took all of my 1/4 pieces and I traded them for 1/8 pieces. So now I have 6 of those over here. And if I were going to divide that now in half, I could literally put a line right there and I would have 3 on each side. So what is 1/2 of 3/4? My answer would be 3/8. So as you can see, that's a little more tricky than what we've been working on. So that brings us to, what are we going to be doing today? Our lesson today is fractions of fractions. Why in the world do we want to learn about fractions of fractions? You might be asking yourself, and I might be asking myself, why do I want to teach it, right? Well, we are getting better and better at increasing our skills with the use of doing different things with fractions. So we want to make sure that we continue to get better and increase those skills. So this happens to be one of those things that we're going to be doing. We also are able to use this strategy in real life applications. So depending on what type of career that you choose to go into, you might need to get really, really precise with measurements or calculations, and finding fractions of a fraction would mean that you were doing that. So for example, if you were an engineer, you might need to do that. If you were working with some kind of medication in the medical industry, or even a veterinarian, you might need to do a fraction of a fraction with some type of medication. So there are jobs and things that you may need to have this skill. So you might be asking, how in the world are we going to do this? Well, you'll notice that I have paper folding. So hopefully that's going to make sense here in a minute, but that is going to be our strategy that we are going to start with. So for our first problem, you can see at the top, it says Larry has 1/2 of a fruit bar. He wants to give 1/2 of what he has to his brother. What part of a whole fruit bar will Larry give to his brother? For our first problem, I need you to think of this sheet of paper as a whole fruit bar. And in the problem, it tells you that the young man is going to get half of a fruit bar. So what we're going to do is we're going to fold this sheet of paper lengthwise. And when we open that up, this dark line here in the middle is our fold line. And this is to show that this is 1/2 of a fruit bar. Now what needs to happen in the problem is this young man wants to share his half with his brother. So he wants basically 1/2 of a half. So how might we do that? We could take this very same piece of paper and then fold it the opposite direction. So we would fold it up, and when we unfold it, we now have 2 fold lines. We have the one going up and down, and we have the one going across. And now we have 1/2 of half. So up at the top, we have, here would be the whole half. And then if I cut that in half, I have 1/2 of the half up here and 1/2 of the half up here. So what would my answer be? My answer would be 1/4, because we have 4 total squares. And one of these would be 1 part out of 4 total, which is also 1/2 of 1/2. Okay, so for our next example, we have Ava. Ava has 1/2 of a veggie pizza. She eats 2/3 of the part of the pizza she has. How much of a whole pizza did she eat? For this example, our sheet of paper is going to represent a whole pizza. So all of this would be a whole pizza. And once again, we're going to cut that in half. So we're going to fold it the long way. And in the problem, it says that they're going to have 2/3 of a half of pizza. Well, in order to figure out 2/3, we first need to figure out 1/3. So my original fold was down the length of the paper the long way. And then I had to take that same paper and fold it into 3 equal parts to get thirds. So I then drew my lines to represent the thirds. So up here at the top, we have 1/3 of half would be this portion right here. Then this would be 2/3 of half. And so the answer to the question is going to be what? If they ate 2/3 of half, it's going to be 2/3 of half is 2/6, because we're going to count this as 1, 2, and then there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 total parts. So my answer would be 2/6. So wow, what did you think about that paper folding? Wasn't it awesome? Well, let's summarize. Paper folding and sketching can help us visualize fraction of fraction problems. So I know I didn't talk about the sketching portion, but you're not always going to have a piece of paper with you to be able to do your problems. So in your workbook, for some of the problems that you'll be working on, you will have to draw a picture or sketch a picture of what those fold lines would look like if you folded your paper to solve for each of the fraction of fraction problems. Boy, is that a mouthful. Well, see you next time. Bye for now.